All right. So we're gonna have a Q&A at the end of everything today. So again, if you have any questions while we go through things, you can throw it in the chat or write it down and ask it later. Our first presentation is fairly short, but we're going to start with some quick introductions first. So we have Shauna, Mira, and Olga helping out moderate that chat. So they'll put any of your questions or comments into a queue that we can get to at the end. So thank you to all of you that are helping. These are our organizers. You can kind of see some of their faces. And myself, my name is Miss Thera or Thera, and I use she, her pronouns. And I am one of the founding organizers here at Artisans Cooperative. And I've been here since probably July when we first started meeting. And I'm really excited that we've grown to what we are and we're having our first open house today. Presenting today, we have two additional organizers. We have Valerie Franklin and Lizzie, who I haven't seen yet today. So possibly Shauna might be taking over for that part of the presentation as well, but we'll see. We'll get someone up here. And then if you want to get to know any of the other organizers, we have a page on our website that says who we are. It's a little bios about each and every one of us on artisans.coop. So you can find that in the about section. In addition to our organizing team, we have a few advisors. We have Siobhan Prophet of the ICA group and the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops also as advisors on the team. So I'm going to hand it over. I hope we've got everyone in. I know we have a couple more in the waiting room. So we're rolling in. Feel free to chat it up in the chat, ask questions. I'm going to hand it over to Valerie now, who's going to take over for our presentation. Let me pull Valerie up for everyone and go ahead.
Hi folks, my name is Valerie Franklin. I run a leather crafting business with my husband Jeff here on the rural Oregon coast on the traditional lands of the Nehalem. We've started our business actually on Etsy in 2009. So I've seen it go through a lot of changes over the past 14 years. That's one of the reasons why I'm really excited to be here with you all today and to be working on this. To just go into a little bit of the background of how we got here, I think, there is a purpose and a need for a cooperative alternative to Etsy. This particular group got together thanks to the Etsy strike. Some of you may have had Etsy shops and may have heard about this in 2022. Last February, when Etsy announced a 30% increase on transaction fees in the same week that they announced record profits in 2021, it seemed like it really galvanized a movement and touched a chord with a lot of people. And some folks posted about it on Reddit and suggested we protest or strike. And that in 7 weeks turned into 80,000 people signing a petition for the Etsy strike and 30,000 shops taking their listings off of the Etsy site for a week. And my shop was one of them. The strike was really successful and got a lot of media attention, but most importantly, I think it gave artisans like ourselves and Etsy sellers a chance to meet each other and get to know each other through the Etsy strike Discord. And I think we've seen how Etsy has been going in a different direction than it was when it started in 2010, when it really was a place the place where you would get genuinely handmade, authentic goods. Over the past, few years, decade, particularly since they went the way of Wall Street, we've been seeing that artisans and customers alike have become more and more discontent with the platform, particularly just in the flooding of inauthentic, non-handmade goods on the platform. So in some ways, we wish that we could just rewind the clock to where Etsy was in 2010, but do it where artisans actually own it and we're in control as cooperative members. So what is the Artisans Cooperative? We are building a cooperatively owned online handmade marketplace for authentically handmade goods. In other words, a co-op alternative to Etsy. Why a cooperative? Democratic ownership, financial participation. That means that in good years, when the co-op makes a surplus, that people can participate and earn dividends or proportional dividends from the income. income security, so that by having democratic ownership and the ability to control governance, we decide for ourselves why or if fees would ever increase. And social good, being able to create something that aligns with our visions and values. This ensures the voice and leadership of artisans in the market in the long term, but we also think it'll provide a longer term quality handmade marketplace for customers as well. Just to clarify, by marketplace, we mean there's two sides to it. There is a customer facing interface, so the shopping site that most people will see when you go to the page, but then there's also an artisan facing backend where you'll manage your shop. So it's not just a product shopping website, but it's actually a marketplace filled with shops. Artisans Cooperative, we intend to be actually a multi-stakeholder cooperative, with the primary member owners being the artisans, but in addition, and artisans being meant to be a general term that covers all creators of handmade goods, whether digital or physical. And that definition of handmade is definitely an important question that we don't take lightly, and we need to define together as a group. Supporters, which are the shoppers, buyers, customers, fans of artisans' work, and partners, which would be businesses, co-ops, nonprofit organizations whose interests are allied and aligned with our artisans and our cooperative. So we all met through the Etsy strike, which was in April of 2022. And person by person, those of us who wanted to build a cooperative started meeting in July of 2022. And between July and October, we got our basic foundations underneath us, a mission statement, and the website that you see today, artisans.coop. And since then, between October and now, we've grown to a community with a reach of 700 plus. Artisans and supporters, and we have about a dozen organizers. And when we say organizers, we mean the group of people who are volunteering to make this happen as part of a sort of a core group. We don't have a hierarchy, we don't have titles, we all pitch in on what's needed to make sure that this work gets done, and we can try to support a launch of the marketplace. Learning is a big part of what we do. So one of the blog posts that we wrote is taking the principles of platform cooperativism, which is co-ops for online cooperativism, and writing a bill of rights for crafters selling online. And one of those major bill of rights items is that the people who will be using the website should take a hand in designing and developing it. And it's for those reasons that we actually run a lot of polls. So we ran a poll in August to come up with our name, which is how we settled on Artisans Cooperative. And we ran a poll from November to January to ask for what people's priorities were for the marketplace itself. We are almost done tabulating those results, and we'll be sharing that in the next week or so. And there's some more polls to come. So your participation in those polls helps us make a better co-op, helps us make better decisions, and ultimately make sure that we're meeting artisans and supporters and partners' needs with the model that we come up with, both in terms of governance and in business model. We've also been lucky that the cooperative community has been super welcoming and supportive. One of the 7 principles of cooperatives is co-ops help other co-ops. And the US Federation of Worker Co-ops took us on as a member. We joined, and we're participating in their co-op clinic. They allocated USDA grant funds to pay for a technical advisor who is helping us come up with those governance and incorporation documents. We have also applied to another co-op incubator program called Start.coop that's for co-ops that intend to scale. And we applied for that the first week of January, and we should be hearing about it in the next month or so. There's 2 cycles of it, and that was for the spring cycle. So we have really appreciated how welcoming the cooperative community has been with us and supportive. And we've had a lot of advisors and a lot of really great advice and talks with folks who understand cooperative development. The upcoming work, this is going to be a big year. There's a post on our blog called 2023, a look ahead at what we're doing. Our, primary we have three huge things that we need to do. One is to spread the word and build our organization. That means building our ranks on social media, Discord, and our email newsletter. It means building our capacity as currently volunteer organizers. And it means fundraising so that hopefully we can be bringing on staff as well, which would also have its own membership class of worker owners once we have employees. We are engaging our followers and conducting polls, so there'll be more polls coming soon. The next one is going to be getting at that definition of what handmade is and what a handmade policy is, how we validate and verify, and how we enforce. We'll be formalizing the governance and legal incorporation with technical guidance from the co-op community. We're building up content on the website to prove our value. We want to help market your shops. As a shop owner myself, I understand, like, we need to give you backlinks. We need to help you have sales. And that's our whole purpose. So we're doing Skillshare articles, we're doing gift guides, we're doing social media shares, we're doing artisan profiles, we have a shop directory. So just join us, fill out our interest survey to register your shop, and we will add you into the mix and be marketing authentically handmade for free. We're writing the business plan, which will include sources for funding with, again, technical guidance from the cooperative community, hopefully through the Start.coop Lean Co-op program. And we're developing the marketplace technology. We're using the poll results from the marketplace priorities poll to prioritize which features are most important and find the right technology to meet artisan and shopper needs, customer needs. We have an ambitious, but we think achievable goal of launching a basic marketplace by October of this year, which we've timed with the hopes of taking advantage of the holiday shopping imperative. So if it's up in October, we can take advantage of folks shopping for the holidays in November and December with an authentically hand campaign. So with that, I'm not sure, Thera, if Lizzie's on or if
Lizzie is here. I was just confirming that. So
great.
Lizzie, if you want to unmute yourself, you can. Lizzie is another one of our organizers and is going to be presenting and sharing for some of the opportunities that can get involved. So, all right, I think you're unmuted. She doesn't have her video on, so I can't spotlight her, but let's listen.
Sorry, nope, no camera today. But hi everybody, I'm Elizabeth or Lizzie, and I just want to go over our different opportunities to get involved. So cooperatives are democratic businesses that can compete in this hard world because of our special advantage, people power. Rather than relying on venture capital or investors who would then own and control the cooperative business, we instead rely upon each other, and we all have equal share in that. You can complete our volunteer survey, which has just been added into the chat. You can join one of our 6 teams: the business and governance team, communications, grassroots, social media, tech, and visual design. You get to weigh in on the different upcoming polls on defining handmade and outlining member classes. You provide support for open jobs that we have at the cooperative. You can shop or donate to our cooperative fundraiser. You join our Discord server where a lot of communication is put through, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter. And all of those links will be in the chat shortly.
Yeah, I think they're flowing in very quickly. Lovely. I love it. All right, so that's basically all of the information we have planned to share with you guys today. We'd love to spend most of our time answering any questions you have, and just kind of chatting and getting to know who is interested in the co-op and what we can do to better communicate and share the information that we have so far and help develop our policies and plans going forward. So if anyone has questions, I think I mostly kept an eye on the chat and didn't see many come in while we were doing the presentation, but you're welcome to share any questions in the chat. If you would like to unmute yourself, you can, or you can use the raise hand feature. And then we can take turns unmuting so we're not talking over each other. But basically that is our information for the time being. And Valerie, the lovely bouncing chicken, we could probably turn that off at this point. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, let us know. And I love the emojis on Zoom. I haven't done a Zoom meeting in a while, so it's good. It's good to be back, kind of. Did I miss any questions by any chance that anyone noticed? Okay, wonderful. All right. Great. I'm scrolling through and I saw. Yeah, we do have a lot of information. Yeah, so if you do have any questions after our open house today, you are welcome to reach out to us. A great place to ask questions is in the Discord, as most of our organizers are active there. We will see it if you ping one of us. But if you're not on Discord, you're welcome to email us as well. Someone will get back to you and we can answer your questions that way. And we also hope to, in future months, share more times to get together, more open houses with more information. So, yeah. I know that some of our organizers may have had a few questions because some of our organizers have just joined our team as well. So if any of you have anything to ask as well, that would be good information to share with the public. We would love it. Can I just ask a quick question of everybody? Can you put in the chat where you heard of us? Just because it's been really interesting to find out if you feel like sharing that information. It's been really interesting to find out because it's been kind of surprising. Some people have seen it on flyers in their local area, which I think is pretty cool. Jessica. How nice. How'd your partner find out about it? Okay. And if you don't know where the chat is, I know that some people don't use Zoom as much, but if you go down to the bottom of your screen, it will open up a control panel. If you just scroll down to the bottom of it usually, and that's the chat. And if you're by chance on your phone, it's usually in the bottom right-hand corner, I would say. Etsy alternatives Googled. Oh my gosh, cool.
Oh,
Alternative economy group. Very cool. Awesome. These are surprising things that I
all very different places.
yeah, so many different places. We have a question that is, how will it be different than Etsy? And I can speak to that as just the fact that we're going to be a cooperative. And that's one of the main ways, but we have a lot of ways to hopefully plan that together as a community. How can we be different? Does anyone else have anything they can speak to that as ideas of how we might be different?
Well, I would just add to that or reiterate that the cooperative model is what will really make the big difference, and that we hope from a shopping point of view, in some ways it may seem very similar. It'll be a marketplace with lots of products and a single checkout and a variety of handmade products. I also hope that one way that will be very different is that we will be now, an authentically handmade selection of products and artisans, whereas I feel that on Etsy these days, one of the big problems is that there are so many non-handmade things on there and they're not enforcing it well. So that you see things that clearly belong, are mass produced that they're not even trying, but it just says handmade and it's up there and people report it and nothing happens. So we hope that by having a critical mass of authentically handmade artisans, we can attract a critical mass of shoppers who care about that as well. And the cooperative model, I think, will both enforce that, like make it work, but also provide an additional benefit to artisans and supporters in the form of another way that they can earn income as owners of a cooperative business together.
Yeah, very true. We did have just a few people just join us. So to let everyone know where we're at, we've already done we had a short presentation at the beginning of our open house that was recorded. So if you missed it, you are welcome to, we will be sharing that after the meeting at some point. Where? We don't know yet. But we will get that out to everyone that is on the attendees list if you did miss it. And then right now we're just asking some questions and answering anything that you have to throw at us. If you've had any bubbling questions that you just haven't seen the answer to on all of the information we've sent out, it's kind of hard to know what people don't know yet. So we have a couple more questions, but yeah, welcome to those that just joined us. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or even ask them out loud if you feel so bold. Okay, I missed a couple of things. So let me scroll back. Oh my gosh, now all of the questions are rolling in. From Dennis, are cooperatives for-profit or nonprofit businesses? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, actually they can be both, but I think that our intention is for this to be a for-profit business that does do a social good, both as a cooperative and that has a social impact component as part of its governance and mission. So the purpose of this is to not just be a charity at all, but to actually build a functioning solid marketplace for selling authentically handmade goods that is actually owned by the people who use it. And the big difference between a regular business doing that and a cooperative is the one member, one vote. So nobody can accumulate shares and have a bigger vote than anyone else. It's one member, one vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A couple more questions from Elizabeth. My partner asks, are there any plans for providing standardized contract templates for members to use either on a mandatory, oh, my cursor was over it, either on a mandatory or voluntary basis? For instance, what am I as the buyer of the logo allowed to do with that? So
that sounds like a perhaps a specific question having to do with art as a service from a buyer point of view. My best guess is, although if the person would like to unmute or raise their hand or provide a little more context, I might be able to answer it better. But yeah,
so that's my partner. For example, his idea is, you know, if we commissioned, he has a YouTube channel. So if he commissioned a digital artist to make like a logo or like a little character that he can use on his YouTube channel, you know, would he then have the rights for that logo? Is that something that, you know, he wants to know if the Coop is going to have like a baseline for that, or if it's going to be artist to artist?
that's a really great question. And we almost touched a little bit on it yesterday when we were meeting about handmade definitions and stuff like that as well. And I think that one thing that artists need is to be able to make those policies themselves and control their own artwork and be able to provide licensing, you know, permissions to their customers. And I feel, this is a personal opinion, but I feel like as a cooperative, we're not going to get in the way of that and determine that for them. So that would be up to the individual artisan, I would believe. But yeah, it's a great question.
But whether or not we could, as a Skillshare thing, talk with a lawyer who could provide some templates as examples for an artisan to consider using, perhaps that could be something useful that we could help with.
Right. Yeah, that would be wonderful. And then does that feel like it kind of answered the question? And I'm not going to scroll down all the way in the chat. If you...
Yeah, no, that works.
I'm just trying to keep track of in order questions right now, so I don't want to lose my spot. Our next question comes from Karen. Are there plans brewing to have a consumer cooperative as well? That's a good question. Yeah, Valerie, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, so what we're actually planning is a multi-stakeholder cooperative, which is a little bit of all in one. Some would say that we might be considered primarily a producer cooperative, but we have elements of being a worker cooperative and elements of being a consumer cooperative all in one. So multi-stakeholder meaning our member classes are artisans, supporters, which are the shoppers or the consumers, all different words intending the same meaning here, and partners, which are allied businesses, and workers, which are employees. And each one of them will have a membership stake in this cooperative. So we've heard about examples from other cooperatives, online cooperatives like ours that have built. There was one that did stock photography, and all of the artisan members were photographers. And they found actually that without having the customer experience or point of view or stakeholder representation on their board, they made some decisions that ultimately made the site better for the photographers that were still on there, but not so much for the customers. And we think it's important for the customers and the partners and the artisans to make decisions together for the overall success of the co-op. So that was probably a long-winded way of saying that consumer cooperative is an element of this cooperative as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Way better put than I would have said it. All right, another question. I love that you guys are asking questions now. From, I don't want to butcher your name, Tirza, maybe? I have one of those unique names, so I'm sorry if I said that wrong. The question is, has it been decided yet if prints of original paintings are considered handmade? I will say yes, it's been part of the discussion, no decisions made.
But I would add only the decisions haven't been made because we want to hear from you first.
Yeah.
So we are developing a handmade poll to ask questions exactly like that. And personally, myself, I think that makes sense. That, you know, if your art form basically requires you to make something once, one of a kind, and in order to keep your business running, you need to make reproducible copies of it, but you are the original artist of this artwork, I believe that should be handmade and should be on there. But that is what our poll on handmade policy and handmade definition is going to be. And I hope both that you and everybody here participates in that so we can come up with a decision or a definition that works for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No decisions made yet at all on that stuff. So we'll decide together. Next question from Endert. Will you have similar support for shipping? And I would guess that similar support for shipping as in already handmade platforms, similar to possibly like Etsy and stuff like that would be my guess. And sorry if you elaborated in the comments below it, I didn't see. But we've discussed in the priorities poll that we sent out, that was one of the questions of like, what is our community-based thinking of the priority of features and stuff that we have as part of our marketplace, and shipping is one of the things that I believe, and I don't know all of the numbers on top of my head, was important to everyone. So Valerie, I know you looked at those numbers more than I did.
Yeah, there were two questions about that in our marketplace priorities poll survey, and that was where we listed a bunch of features that we thought both artisans might want and need from the business end, and what shoppers or customers might want and need from the shopping end. And there's a few different elements that run through that. There's automatically to be able to print shipping labels on the site. There's figuring out taxes, and there's integration with third-party shipping programs. I believe that the carrier calculated shipping rates was identified as one of the top 10 priorities. And we are looking for a marketplace technology solution that will include that, as well as tax collection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great tips in the chat, Lizzie, on the question that you had of licensing information for your partner potentially. So hopefully you saw those. So I think if anyone else has more questions, you're welcome to ask them. I saw Shauna has a question after the last question that was asked, and that's the last question I saw. So if anyone else would like to, Shauna, take it away. What's your question?
Okay, not that more questions can't be asked, but one thing I am wondering about, because I am new, is I'll start by asking, is the Artisans Cooperative driving the selection of the artisan in terms of fitness, or is the marketplace driving the fitness of the artisan? And the reason I ask that is, for example, if you have an artisan who on their own personal website or on their Etsy right now has a mix of things that they sell art supplies, they sell vintage items, they sell, let's say they sell a number of things, some of which would qualify after this handmade poll is finished and there's guidelines, behind what is approved for the marketplace. So some of their things qualify, but other things don't. So, okay, it makes sense that you would only sell those things on the marketplace. But what about in terms of the broad acceptance into the membership of the cooperative? Are they still accepted if in the rest of the world and the rest of their identity as that artisan and operating under the name of that business or that artisan's name, they're producing work that doesn't fall within the cooperative's parameters? Do you require that will there be some sort of need for distinguishing? And the only real area where I see this could be a problem is if, let's say and just for everyone to know, this has not been discussed at all, at least as far as I know, but let's say the Artisans Cooperative decided there will be no political material. That's just an example. And then on the artisan's personal website where they're selling things, they have political material. Could that paint a bad light for the cooperative, because people may come to the cooperative because they think it's all handmade things or no political things, and then they go to this person's website and they see that they're selling non-handmade things, or so do you understand my question? I know it's kind of
I think I understand. Yeah, I think we're both nodding along.
Yeah. Do you want to go first, Sarah?
Yeah, I just had a couple of thoughts on it because this is something that we've somewhat discussed. Again, none of these decisions have been made and finalized as to what that's going to look like. But I know that as a group, with the organizers that have been speaking, I have heard from many of us, as well as myself, that it's important that we're able to operate our businesses the way we want to. And I would look into the future and see that, like, ideally someone can operate their business off platform how they would like to, right? I don't think that would affect what is on the platform. Now, there might be items that are unable to be sold just by like legalities. Like for instance, yesterday, I believe we spoke about like alcohol and stuff like that as something that would not be able to be sold online just because of the legalities of it. That then is in that person's hand on whether they want to offer that somewhere else. But that's kind of just where I think about it. And the policy, there will be, I mean, I assume there will be terms of use and, policies saying, nonviolent, those types of things that are typically on a marketplace platform as prohibited items. We might have some of those things listed there. So that's kind of what I can say to it. But again, no decisions made. Valerie, do you have more to add to that?
I just generally agree with everything you said there. Obviously, yes, there could be prohibited items, just as there are on all marketplaces, and there should be, things that you can't sell or hate speech or things like that. But, one of our approaches to this that I think we've all talked about and agreed on is that artisans should be able to multi-home. They should be able to do what works for their business. I know my leather crafting business will probably still have our shop on Etsy. We will definitely still have our own website. And I don't think it's the cooperative place to tell artisans where they can or can't sell their things, so long as the things that they're selling on our handmade website meet our handmade policy and guidelines. And that may mean that some artisans have, maybe they got some swag products or something that to throw into the mix, or they found a great resale deal on their materials that they're selling or something like that. And maybe that doesn't belong on our marketplace, but they're still our artisans selling handmade things. So multi-homing is, I think, the way that they term it. And that's an important thing that all artisans should have the freedom to do.
I think that biggest idea is that a marketplace isn't the end all be all of your own individual business. I know that we've also spoken about like that issue of, how everybody, when they shop on Etsy or on Amazon or wherever it be, some big marketplace, when you ask them, oh, where'd you get that thing? They say, oh, I got it on said marketplace, but it's not the individual shop that sold that to them. I would hope that we can maybe curb that a little bit and have a little bit more ownership over and like representation over who we are as artists, or artisans or makers or whatever you consider yourself. and have that not just be, oh, I got it on Artisans Cooperative, but spread the word about it, because we're a great community and we're going to bolster each other and it's awesome. Sorry, you guys, I teach kids for like part of my work, so I'm really enthusiastic sometimes. So all right, I know I had one more other person. I'm not sure if the last person that I let in from the wedding room was in here earlier, but we're asking any questions that we might have. We're getting towards the end of our open house, but everything, hi, hello face. We're getting towards the end of the open house, so we've already done a presentation that was recorded and you're welcome to watch it afterwards. So I have a couple more comments in the chat, but yeah, if anyone else has questions, feel free to pop it in the chat or speak up and join us in conversation. Yeah, Jessica says, I dig that. I think it's because Etsy feels a bit more detached, distant, so some shop owners feel so anonymous. Yeah, I think it's hard. It's like being a little fish in a big, giant ocean of what we hope is handmade and vintage sellers, but sometimes is more than that.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed as Etsy has been changing, and this has been accelerated over the past couple of years, is more of that feeling that I got when we even tried selling our leather goods on Amazon, where the customer doesn't even seem to be aware that they're buying from a shop at all. Not even just that they tell their friends, oh, I got this on Etsy or I got this on Amazon, but that when it comes to a customer service problem or a returned order, they think that they're actually talking to Etsy rather than Amazon or the actual artisan.
Yeah.
I don't know if others have noticed that as well.
Yeah, and so that's like even more of a discussion of like how do we curb that, and like in our communication platform, because that will obviously be a part of our marketplace as well, communication between supporters and artisans. And Kelly Jo Anderson asked in the comment and what's it called, chat box, how do you envision our shop URL will look like? For example, myname.artisans.coop.org. That would help with the identity of the shop being separate from the platform. That's a great point, that like putting the artisan's name first potentially, and I'm guessing that's what you're speaking of, as opposed to whatever platform /shop/numbers /no name or something like that. I don't think that's not something that I recall us discussing yet. So I don't necessarily have an answer, but that's a great suggestion. So I'm glad we're going to save some of these in our notes as well. So we'll keep that in mind. Anybody else?
I agree. I'm adding that to my list for our marketplace development tech narrowing down search. I think that's a great point and great idea.
Yeah. I mean, my hope for it, like just in my envisioning of like, if I were to build something all by myself, that was a bunch of artisans, I'd almost want it to have that like market feel of walking through and getting to meet people and making that connection, as opposed to, which is hard to do online, but like, you know, how do we do that? If that's what we all want. Yeah, having our name in the URL will help with SEO also. Yeah, absolutely. So we're noting that one down. Great suggestion. If anyone else has suggestions as well, instead of just questions, you're welcome to add those also. So I know it's hard to think on the spot as well. I just want to make sure I give us enough time, but if it feels like we're starting to lag, we'll close down the meeting. You're welcome to ask questions through email. Again, on Discord, if you are on Discord, it's not where it's just how we happen to kind of come together. So that's where a lot of communications are happening right now, but we are also trying to not be just a Discord community, because that's not what we are. We're building a co-op. We're going to be a co-op community. Yeah, thank you, Shauna. Shauna added our Discord to the chat. Also, if you want to connect with us outside of Discord, because you are a non-Discord user, I was a non-Discord user also before this. So email, if you do that. Do we have a contact form on our website? I should know the answer to that question.
So
Also on social media, we are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on, oh my gosh, pretty much most social media. We're on Mastodon as well, and it's at Co-op Artisans, COOPARTISANS, visualizing that one. It would have been easier to spell out in the chat, but if you haven't found us on social, feel free to reach out, and if you're on any social networks, connect with us, and you can message us through those as well to connect.
And there is a contact us form
Thank
on
you.
the website. You're welcome.
I thought
was like-
so.
I was like, I think it's up.
It's pretty yeah. Amira just shared the Mastodon, which I know a lot of people are switching over to, which is really cool. I don't use it yet myself, but all right. Well, if you have any more questions, you can leave them, but I think we've kind of answered most. Again, if you think of anything, feel free to reach out to us. And other than that, we'll keep it short and sweet, and you can be on your way if you want to. You can also just say hi. Anybody else have, Valerie, do you have anything to add or anything?
I was wondering if Sam was raising his hand or waving goodbye.
Sam, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey guys, sorry, I feel really bad for missing exactly what I'm going to ask about. It was awesome learning about the project, and I think I read the blog post about the year ahead and kind of talking about what's happening in the survey. But I was just kind of curious, short, medium term, like the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, what are kind of some of the things coming up and that those involved are gearing up to work on?
Yeah, great question. We are working on a lot of stuff. We did share some upcoming things in the slides, just ways to get involved in all of that. Maybe we can put in the chat some of those links as well. My brain is blanking on specific things. So Valerie, thank you for saving me.
Yeah, our top 3 things the next, say, 4 weeks is going to be finalizing the results from the marketplace priorities poll, which we ran from November to January, turning that into an actionable list of shopping list, really, of what we're looking for in marketplace technology, and finding that marketplace technology and getting the ball rolling on it, figuring out how much it's going to cost and all of that. We are going to be starting our next poll, which is about the handmade definition, handmade policy, how we verify, validate, guideline, and enforce handmade. We are also going through a guided process with the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops, who's helping us shape our business model and our governance. So we're doing something called the Business Model Canvas. and the ownership model canvas. Business model canvas is the business model for most typical businesses, but then for co-ops, you add on the ownership or governance segment as sort of a whole nother thing level in which we think about our businesses. So there's a whole ownership model canvas as well. We also applied to another mentorship program to help us called Start.coop, and we should be finding out within the next 4 weeks or so if we got in. If we did, we'll be starting that program probably within 8 weeks or so. And that program will run through October. And that's for co-ops that intend to scale. The U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops co-op clinic I mentioned earlier with governance is more focused on worker co-ops, but recognizing that gig workers like Etsy sellers are workers too. We are also going to be applying at the end of March for another program. The Start.coop program, if we get into it, will come with a $10,000 investment in our business, which will help cover marketplace costs and marketing. But if we get into this third program, which is called the Worker Labs Innovation Fund, and that will be very competitive. And so I'm not, my hopes aren't too high, but if we are successful with that program, then that comes with a $5,000 a month stipend for 4 months and a $200,000 investment to help the co-op grow and market and get our website launched. And all of those programs come with technical advice and mentorship. So there'll be a lot of business, and I'm the business and government person, so that's what I'm talking a lot about, but there'll be a lot of business and governance effort trying to get our self-incorporated, define our vision, define our business model, make sure it works, look for funding. And that is on a sort of February through April timeline. I hope that by April, we're at the point where we're incorporated and we're actually signing on and getting in our first buy-ins from early members so that we can do a soft launch with them in August, September, and support an actual sort of softer, less soft launch in October for our actual marketplace.
And I don't know how you keep all that in your brain, Valerie.
Talking very fast, sorry.
No, it's perfect. Hopefully that answered your question. Sam, do you have any follow-up on that, or?
Yeah, I was just saying that's like probably the most perfect answer anybody could give to what I asked. So that's amazing. And I guess just a follow-up is, I just joined the Discord, and is it like possible to kind of help participate in any of those processes around like the Canvas stuff? Okay, because I think there's some really cool and interesting questions which were immediately coming to mind, which probably haven't been resolved yet, which get into things like, who is the audience of kind of users for the platform? And I see that more in like a regional context. Like, is it for, primarily kind of global north? Is it beyond that, different types of contexts, which also bleeds into the technology questions about accessibility and these types of things. So I think it's super cool, really interesting. And yeah, I'll be checking it out and maybe having a chance to participate. If
we would love your involvement. We absolutely need more help. And it's a really fun and exciting project that is still wide open and we can shape it. And we have multiple opportunities to ask our larger membership for feedback and priorities to help us go in the right direction. I think this hasn't come up yet, but our intention is to make this an international platform with international shoppers and international artisans. The logistics of that and the marketplace compliance and the laws might make that complex, but that's our goal. And we will be finding more about that with the technical advice and programs that we're going through. There's another organization called the Platform Cooperativism Consortium that focuses just on online cooperatives, and they have a more global view. They have 60 countries on board, and I hope that we can get engaged with them once we grow big enough to join them, so that we can get that international online perspective of co-ops, because online co-ops are still kind of, there are some that are out there and they're working, and I think they're all international. So I think it can be done, and I want to learn from them on how to do that.
And I'll add to that most of us are artisans, and we're not platform cooperative building startup tech wizards. So we're kind of all pitching in where we can and getting help from places where we are not knowledgeable, and like going to all of these organizations that know more and learning more. And it's been an exciting and really growthful, that's not a word. It's really been a great process for all of us that have been doing organizing, but then just building this community. So anyone that wants to get involved is welcome to. We're all volunteer run at this point. And these are things that we did say earlier, but happy to repeat for anyone that a few other people joined also towards the end after our presentation. So yeah, welcome, join, get involved, do anything you can. If you're time restricted, do as little as you can. But we want to build community and do this together so that we can all be represented and build something that we actually want and that serves us all. So yeah. All right.
I'll just add that a couple of our organizers are actually based in Europe. So we do have an international group leading this here.
Yeah, and Shauna just put the volunteer form in the chat as well. So that's a great way. We'll get that and see what kind of, like, if anyone fills out the volunteer form, it kind of tells us what your interests are. And that's also the other thing that our volunteers have all been kind of focused on, our passions and expanding our boundaries and going into things that we may not have touched before as well, just by need. But if you're passionate about a specific thing and you want to lend your skills and your knowledge, we would love to have you. So yeah.
I heard Sam volunteered to be our bookkeeper.
Is that right? We do have holes in the mix. But yeah. Hey, oh my gosh, I'm so excited how many people turned out today. We had a big list, so we'd be sending the recording out. Once we figure out how we actually didn't think about after the fact of where this recording is going to go, but we'll get it out to those that joined late, to anyone that didn't come today. And yeah, we'll continue the conversation. And I know that in a couple of months, maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, we might be having another open house as well. We're taking it day by day. So if any more questions are there, I'm here for the next, however long we need to answer your questions. Well, up to a certain point, but and also I don't want to miss our questions because they might be great for people that weren't able to watch the answers. So I have not stopped recording yet, but I will at some point stop the recording. And if anyone's feeling shy or anything, you can ask afterwards too. But I think that hopefully I didn't miss anyone's question in the chat as well. If you did have a question that we missed, feel free to pop it in there again. But yeah, connect with us on social media, connect with us on Discord, connect with us through email, our website, artisans.coop. And that's the full address. There's no .com, no .org, it's .coop, with no dash in between, just COOP. Which is why we have a chicken as our logo, because it kind of reminds us of the coop. So yeah, welcome. So anyone just joining us, we're actually very close to wrapping up, I believe. I haven't seen any more questions come in. So I will let people, I'll stop talking. And if anyone else wants to speak, you're welcome to, or if you want to head out for your day or night or whatever time it is in your location, that's up to you. Thank you all so much. Yeah, thanks for coming. I can't wait for us all to get connected and keep building momentum on this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm gonna hang on until everyone's out because I have some housekeeping things to do as far as the recording goes. But if anyone else has questions, feel free. All right, I'm gonna hit stop record. Thank you all again.